Welcome, everyone, to Just Barely Awake, where my chronically tired self talks about whatever topic is on my mind. And today's topic is going to be Nimona, that animated movie that came out on Netflix recently that apparently was canceled a while ago by Blue Sky Studios. I mean, not canceled by Blue Sky Studios, but it was made by Blue Sky Studios, I think. And then, well, we all know what happened to that studio. No longer with us. RIP. But yeah, it apparently was able to get made somehow, despite being canceled, and I watched it, which I wasn't going to do originally because I did not give a shit. I did not care about this movie. Immediately when I saw it was made by the same person who made She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, that dumpster fire, I was like, yeah, this is obviously not going to be good. And I saw, the comic art for it, and I was like, wow, this comic looks very ugly. But the actual movie, the animation, they have a sort of cell shaded animation art style going on. I think that's what it's called. And I actually like it. I really do like the cell shaded style that is in some more recent movies and TV shows. I think Arcane has that. I think Spider-Verse kind of has that a bit. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not a nerd buff geek. I'm not knowledgeable about the different types of animation styles and ins and outs, but I do like that aesthetic. So I was like, okay, this actually looks like my type of thing. It's also fantasy, sort of. Fantasy in the sense that there's some magical stuff going on, but it's not really the high fantasy that I usually try to immerse myself in. I guess it's also kind of sci-fi because they got hover bikes and stuff in it and laser beams and stuff, so I guess it's kind of low-key sci-fi fantasy type of story going on. What else is going on in it? Oh yeah, that's basically the general overview. It was made by the same person who made She-Ra, so that was obviously for me just ugh. But I watched the trailer. I forgot how I reacted to the trailer when I first saw it. I don't remember. I think. Oh yeah, I remember. I thought Nimona looked really obnoxious. And I was like, oh, here we go. It's that main female character who's over the top and, bossing everyone around and stepping on all the men and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, great. Another great, strong female character for the win. But after watching the film, I am actually pleasantly surprised that I didn't hate Nimona. And I mean Nimona, the character. Sure, she's obnoxious, definitely 100%, but it's not annoyingly obnoxious. It's yeah, she's over the top, she's obnoxious, she's kind of gross sometimes, and she can be a pain for our other main character. I'll go into a synopsis later, but let me just get my general thoughts out. She can obviously be a pain and cause some trouble, but there's this kind of charm, I guess, where it's oh, she's a lot, but it's not too much, I guess. And I do like how I think a lot of that plays in. The reason why is because they make her sympathetic right off the bat. They try to you see that, yeah, she's a lot and she's putting up this persona of her wanting to be basically a villain, a monster, and wants to go break a whole bunch of stuff. But you see, immediately they show you, yeah, under that there's a lot of pain, and ultimately she just kind of wants some kind of company and someone to just talk to her and see her. So yeah, I think that's what helped it. This is because Nimona could easily be the worst character in this movie, but she's not, which I'm actually surprised about. It's they held back. But let me give a general synopsis of Nimona, the movie. It is about this commoner kid named Ballister, or I think it's Ballister, named Ballister, who is going to be a knight. He was brought from the common lands or whatever the fuck by the queen, and they're like, hey, anyone can be a knight, a hero basically. So that's why we're picking Bal, and at the coronation, well, I guess knighting ceremony, he kind of murks the queen, and they're like, well, he's bad, just like we always thought. It was a mistake to have him be a knight. So then he has to go into hiding and try to prove his innocence. And the one who kind of helps him do that, although very chaotically and destructively, is Nimona, who is this shape-shifting entity who is so excited to be working for a supervillain. And then she's like, oh, wait, you're not a supervillain? Oh, that kind of sucks. But, I'll still help you anyway to prove your innocence, as long as we get to do it together and kick some ass and everything like that. It's all good. So that's kind of like the general plot of the movie. And the movie itself, like, again, I am pleasantly surprised that I actually kind of enjoyed it. Like, no cap, as they like to say nowadays, the kids. But yeah, I have to be honest. Like, I know there's going to be a lot of people that I personally follow who are going to be like, this is bad, this is woke, this is trash, all the things. And I'm like sitting here watching it, and I'm like, not really. Like, I feel like there's so much more, like there's so much shit out there, especially recently. Like, there's so many movies and TV shows that are just like, how did this get made, and who thought this was good, or is pushing some sort of agenda, as people like to do nowadays. But no, I watched this thing twice because I really wanted to make sure that whatever came out of my mouth and how I felt about the movie was how I genuinely felt. And yeah, I genuinely felt that this movie was actually kind of decent. I actually kind of liked it. Like, I kind of liked it. I don't love it. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that, oh my gosh, Nimona, it's like this groundbreaking film that's going to change the industry or change animation, or it's, I don't know. That it's like, or I'm not gonna say it's a must-see film. It's like, oh my gosh, this is on the level of those Pixar movies of old, and oh, this movie is going to change your life, and oh, if you're not watching this movie, you're really missing out. I'm not going to say any of that because I don't think any of that is true. But it's a decent movie. Like, I don't see, honestly, the harm in watching it. Like, I actually enjoyed it. I was not bored. Like, I'm honestly surprised how not bored I was. Like, I was actually kind of engaged throughout the whole movie. For better or for worse. There are some scenes where I was like, ugh. But I was never bored. I actually enjoyed myself. And the only time I really looked at the runtime was because there were points in the film where I felt, okay, we're reaching an ending. And then I check and I'm like, oh God, there's like a whole hour left. Or I'm looking again and I'm like, damn, this movie still isn't over. But not in like a bad way. Just because I thought, at certain points in the movie, it's like, okay, the ending is right around the corner. We're gonna, like, resolve this thing and it's gonna end here. And then I'm like, oh no, it's still going. But again, not in a bad way. Just like there are some points in the film where I thought, it was gonna end at certain points. But it didn't, and honestly, I only really felt that way the first time. After knowing that, okay, this movie it's not done yet, like, in my head, it's like, it's gonna keep going. I kind of was able to, like, better sit through it the second time, where I didn't have to check. I was like, okay, I'm feeling the pacing it feels better to me in the second watch than it did in the first watch. That's what I would say. It felt like the pacing, I guess that's what I'm trying to, the pacing itself felt kind of weird, where it's like, okay, we're reaching a conclusion. Oh, no, it's still going, but I'm not mad, but I'm just kind of confused. It's kind of like my initial thoughts. But yeah, it was better the second time around. And what do I think about the characters? Well, I already talked about Nimona a bit in the beginning. What do I think of Bao? He's alright, you know? Like, Bao, Golden Loin. I'm sorry, his first name is Ambrosius. Just the Golden Loin thing. It's such a weird ass last name. But Bao, Ambrosius, who else is in this film? The director, Todd, the bully character. Todd is someone I did not care for. Although there was just like this one part in the movie where he kind of like comes in and is like, your door was broken or something like that. And I was like, okay, I actually like that delivery, I guess. That was the only time though. But everything else, I was like, this character is just not doing it for me. It's a typical bully character. You're like, you know, he's there to bully the main character and just be a dick and whatever. But yeah, didn't really care for him. Like, it's so weird because I don't hate any of the characters. Besides that, I don't hate him. I just don't care for him. Like, the director, Ballister, Ambrosius, like, those three main characters that we have in the film, you know, they exist. There's nothing really, I feel like there's not much to say about them, really. Like, even Ballister. I know he's, like, our main, I would say there's less to say about Ambrosius. I know he's going through, like, his conflict, but it's like, you know, is it really worth mentioning that much? You know, he's a descendant of I guess the one who started this whole institute, that was what they call it, Glorith. And yeah, he's the descendant, and you know, he has expectations. But I never really felt those expectations from society that the film wanted me to think that he felt, because he signed up for this. You know, I think it looked like the director was gonna pick Todd, or I guess, well, Todd volunteered, and then Ambrosius stepped up. But I guess you could say he stepped up because he's the descendant of Glorith. But I don't know. I mean, would the director have picked him? I feel like picking him is a terrible decision, honestly, because of his relationship with Bao. It seems like, no, your relationship with Bao is going to make you a liability in the mission of capturing him. So why would I pick you? Like, you're going to let him go, which he does multiple times in the movie. So it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't trust Ambrosius to get the job done because he's too close to it. So I'm actually surprised that the director just let that happen. It's like, don't you want this guy to be captured? So yeah, that's why the whole thing about like, oh, you know, I'm the descendant of Glorith. I didn't ask for that. And it's like, I don't know why they picked you to be in control of this mission in the first place. Honestly, like, you shouldn't have been in charge. So yeah, I don't know. The whole descendant of Glorith thing, I don't know. It just felt like it wasn't really that important, if I'm being honest. Like, I feel like it wouldn't have mattered whether he was the descendant or just literally the top student in the Knight Academy, or just like the captain of the Knights. Like, I feel like there really is no difference of whether or not he's a descendant or not. He is clearly one of their best knights, so it's like, you know, I feel like the expectations could have came from literally anywhere. I don't know, just didn't feel like it mattered all that much. But yeah, he's a descendant of the great Glorith who founded the Institute and was like the leader of this Knight Academy that they got going on in this movie. What else? Oh yeah, Bao himself. So, what was weird to me, not like film breaking, but what was weird was that Bao, so he accidentally kills the queen, and then, like, Ambrosius cuts off his arm. I'm like, wow, okay. I was not expecting that. Or was I? I forgot if I saw that in the film. It doesn't really matter. But anyway, his arm gets cut off, and then he's, like, perfectly fine. Like, it's like cutting off his arm was like scraping your toe or something. This is scraping your toe. Stubbing your toe. Like, it hurts, but, you know, you'll get over it. And I'm like, he should be, like, lying on the floor bleeding out or something like that. Like, how is he just, like, standing there looking at his boyfriend being like, oh, Ambrosius, you cut off my arm, and, oh, the queen. I guess you could say he's in shock, but yeah, it was a bit much for me. And then he just builds himself his own robot arm, and it's like, where'd you learn how to do that? Like, aren't you like a knight or something? Are they teaching their knights how to build arms? Because they also apparently teach their knights that whenever someone is firing a weapon, you have to cut off their arm. Which seems like, I guess it's not, is it a weird thing to teach someone? Like, if someone is like using a weapon, cut off their arm, I guess that's the easiest way to disarm someone, but I don't know. Is cutting off someone's arm really that simple as slicing butter? I mean, it does look like they have laser swords, I guess. I don't know. The swords light up, so I'm guessing the swords are super powerful or strong or whatever the fuck, but I don't know. It was just like, I was like, wow, how are you making your own arm? Where did you learn how to do this? And it like works perfectly well. Like, he just pops it back in. Like, Edward Elric wishes it was that simple, but yeah. And then he ran, and then he's in this secret lair, and that's where he meets Nimona, who immediately like comes in and is like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to work with a murderer. And then he's like, I'm not actually. And she's like, oh, how disappointing. And it's just like, wow, this character. I was a little worried about her. But honestly, right off the bat, she could have been very annoying. But she surprisingly wasn't. And I was like, okay, she's okay. Like, I see what they're trying to do with her. So yeah, I wasn't annoyed by Nimona, which is very good, because she's literally the titular character. And let's see, I have some notes written down, so let me read these notes. Yeah. And now I'm looking at the notes. It says how the pacing was weird right after meeting Nimona. Yeah, it felt like what I mentioned earlier about how, like, I felt like the film was ending in different places, but then I was surprised when it kept going. And I was like, gosh, there's more to this movie? I thought we were, like, basically almost done. Yeah, that happens. But, like I said, it felt better after knowing that it's not gonna end in the place that I thought it was. But yeah, it just felt a little weirdly paced. What else? Oh yeah, the world building of this, movie is kind of weird. Like, I guess it's like low-key science fiction fantasy. We have knights, and we have hover bikes, and we have like sort of futuristic technology. We have like electronic coins that people are tossing into the jazz musicians on the street. We have like electronic turnstiles and everything. We have like these hover messages on buildings and stuff, these electronic messages. I don't know. I felt the world building was kind of, I guess, like, just weak in a way, where it didn't feel like much of anything. Like, it's like, what is our world? I don't know. We got tacos, and we say metal, or, well, Nimona does. I don't know how to describe it. It's like, I guess there's just not much to it. Like, Earth with just a little future-y stuff. And that's pretty much it. I was confused. I was like, we have these knights, and we have swords, but where are these, like, laser guns? I see they have, like, these bow and arrows, which is like, it's more like a crossbow type of thing that they got going on. But it's like, man, I feel like you guys could have like laser swords or something. Or I mean, definitely the queen literally gets like killed from this laser beam. And I'm like, what's the point of using swords, really? Like, why not give these people guns? And why are you guys using crossbows? Like, give them guns. That's what I thought. I was like, we have these futuristic technology and we're still using swords? Why? It's swords and bow and arrows or crossbows or whatever. That was the weird thing about the world building to me. I was like, it feels so out of place. Like, why not? They should have like lightsabers and guns and laser beams, more than just like the director's little doohickey cane thing that shoots out lasers that she has just hidden away. That's what it felt like to me. It's like, I don't know. It's like, there's not really much to the world, really. Which I guess, I don't know. Does it work against the film? I don't know. It's like, the whole film happens within the city. And so, see, now that I think about it, the city has this wall around it, and they're like, now we have to keep out the monsters. And I was like, but when you reach the end and you find out the whole monster thing is like fake, and Nimona is supposed to be like the monster that Glorith saw or was trying to defend against, this like little shape-shifting monster. And it's like, are there any other monsters out there? Like, are there any records of any other monster encounters? Because if not, if this whole city was literally built just to protect against just Nimona, it seems kind of ridiculous. Like, have there be other monsters besides Nimona and have them actually be real? Like, this whole thing about, have you ever questioned the wall? And I'm like, are you seriously telling me there's, like, nothing over there? It seems kind of, I know it's supposed to be, like, question the government type of thing, but it's like, I don't know. Like, when we see Glorf in the flashback, she's just like this little girl. Are you telling me she really built this whole society just to protect everyone from this one person who she was kind of friends with, even though she was told that, oh no, you can't be friends with her anymore? It seems so extreme. But maybe things are just extreme these days? I don't know. I don't run any government stuff. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed when I thought about it. I was like, are there really no other, like, monster? And it doesn't have to be, like, ferocious monster type things. Just, like, supernatural, fantasy, like, creature things. Like Nimona. Like, shapeshifters, you know, I don't know, mermaids, talking bears, whatever. Literally any fantasy creature that you could think of. And it's like, it seems like once the wall breaks down, it's like, oh, it's just forest area. And it's like, is there anything out there? We never know because we never go past the wall, it seems. We never get to see the other side. And it's like, what's behind the wall? Literally just nothing, just nature. And it's like, is that what we were protecting everyone from? Like, literally just Nimona and nature, I guess? It just seems like a missed opportunity. Like, have there be at least some truth to what the heck Glorif was doing and what the Institute was protecting about? Like, literally, there was nothing out there, which I think is kind of ridiculous. Oh, yeah. The part about, like, who killed, the queen. I do, like, after the second rewatch, I was like, oh, wow, they actually kind of set it up a little bit with the squire, how he was, like, a little nervous about giving Bao his sword, and then you see Bao actually check his sword and be like, what's going on with my sword? It looks kind of weird, it feels weird. He's seeing how he's, like, weighing it, and he's like, oh, this weighs kind of differently, it feels differently in my hand. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, huh. But I didn't really think much after that. I was like, I wonder what's going on here. Like, because when the squire was like, your sword, I was like, is he nervous to talk to him for some reason? It was right after Todd bullying him, so I was like, I wonder if he's just, like, not trying to socialize with him too. But no, I after the sword thing with the squire and then Bao looking at a sword, I was like, okay, there's something here. I didn't really connect the dots then, but I was like, there is something. So I do like that little foreshadowing that they have at the beginning. What else? Oh yeah. In the film, when Ambrosius is talking to the director, like, the director is like, Ambrosius, you can talk to me, what's wrong? And there's this scene where Ambrosius has this freak out, and it's like, it was kind of cringe. He was just doing it, and then immediately it cut, and then it was like, I'm fine. And it's like, oh, that whole thing was fake. It was just like his inner thoughts, I guess. And I was like, oh. I still didn't like it though. I didn't like it. It was just so over the top and silly. I would say this about the film. I feel like the humor can be kind of hit or miss. It's kind of like the whole thing with Todd and his bully self. And it's like, it's not really as funny. It's not as funny as I think it is. Or like that freak out with Ambrosia, and it's like, it really wasn't that funny. Like, I'm not laughing. I'm really not laughing. It's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of cringe. Oh my gosh. And the dance sequence with the shark, Nimona, and Bao as they're uploading the video. They're having a dance party. I'm like, ugh, this is so cringe. Like, I don't like it. It's not funny. Can we please move past this? Like, I'm literally rolling my eyes looking at this scene. Like, the humor, I would say this film isn't really that funny. That's what I would say about it, which is actually surprising. Like, it's surprising how I like the film despite its attempts at humor kind of being poor. I'm like, it's not really funny at all. Like, I didn't really find it funny. Or I guess maybe I laughed at things that weren't supposed to be comedic. I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. The only thing I would say that was even remotely worth a chuckle was the whole demonic baby thing that Nimona was doing. So, oh yeah, that's the only thing. But besides that, I guess also, well, I don't think this doesn't count as comedic, but I did like the dynamic between Bao and Nimona. I thought that was I liked how that progressed. You see him, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm hanging out with a monster, but then he's like, okay, I'm gonna accept your help, and I'm gonna socialize with you, and I'm gonna be like, hey, can you please try not to creep me out every 2 seconds? Nimona is like, what are you talking about? I'm just being me. And then eventually he kind of like gets used to it and is able to like accept it, and you see their friendship become a little bit more amicable, where they're not like resisting and going against each other, but it's more like they're kind of just like they're, in sync, during the board game where Nimona like breathes fire. And he's like, I didn't know you could do that. And she's like, oh, and you see she kind of like recoils a little bit. And it's like, oh, whoops, And then he's like, it's okay, kind of cool. And then she's like, oh, good. I can be myself and do things without having to be like looked in a distasteful way, basically. Which I kind of like. I liked it. Oh yeah, the backstory for Nimona about how, with her and Glorif. I don't think I was expecting that. Like, I was like, when she, like, runs away after Bao and her have, the argument. Actually, let me talk about that argument first. Because I was just thinking about my second rewatch. And I was like, the things Bao was saying. He was like, is this you? Because there's this scroll with Nimona in it. And it depicts her as basically a monster. This black monster thing. And then there's Nimona as a girl in the center of it. And you see it's fighting against Glorif. And then he's like, is this you? And Nimona's like, do you really think that's me? And he's like, well, I don't know. Ever since you came to me, you've been causing chaos and trying to destroy everything. And I'm like, he has a point. Like, you literally brought this chaos into his life. Besides the whole killing the queen by accident thing. But you were like, let's kill people. Oh, I thought you were going to be a super villain. I wanted to, like, destroy shit, break stuff. And it's like, yeah, I mean, he's not wrong, really. Like, is he? I mean, he's like, ever since I came to you, I've done, like, all these messed up stuff, kidnapping, breaking into stuff, fighting a whole bunch of people. And she's like, I was trying to help you. And he was like, no, you wanted everyone to see me as a villain so you wouldn't be alone. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's also true. Because isn't that like exactly what she said in the beginning? She was literally like, he was, in the beginning of the film, near the beginning, he was like, why are you helping me? And she was like, because I'm bored and because everyone else hates you too. Like, I'm literally associating with you because there's someone who is hated almost as much as me in this kingdom. So, he's not wrong. I thought about it. I was like, wow. He's making some points. Like, can you really blame him? So, yeah, I was kind of like that. Like, obviously, socialized, so clinical. He spent some time with her, and so, softer side, I guess? But I guess a more amicable side, where it's like, oh, we're this, chaotic group of friends, and we're doing stuff. Well, yeah, I honestly can't blame Bao for being like, I don't know. I mean, you could actually be an actual monster. I mean, ever since you came into my life, you've been wanting to do this messed up shit and just cause chaos and break everything. Though I will note that Nimona doesn't actually, well, when we get to the end, we'll talk about that. But in the beginning, Nimona doesn't seem to actually be actively hurting anyone. I mean, not hurting. I mean, killing anyone. She doesn't seem to actually kill anyone in this film, which is, like, good. Because, I mean, she keeps talking about wanting to kill everybody. There's this part where she's like, let's kill him. And then she's like, no, I'm gonna capture him. You and me. And I actually did like that little part. But yeah, she's not actually hurting. Well, like I said, not hurting. Killing people in this film. So, yeah. So, I remember seeing somewhere on the Twitter. He was like, she's literally talking about killing people. And I'm like, but she doesn't actually kill anyone in this film. And then I guess you could make the arguments because Ballister is like preventing and stopping her murderous tendencies, I guess. But I don't know. Even when at near, what is this, in the middle of the movie, when they try to appeal to Ambrosius and show him the video, he's like, okay, let's break stuff. And when Nimona goes loose, she breaks stuff, sure, and is, hurting people and fighting. But it's like, she's not actually actively killing anyone or anything like that. Like, she's being destructive, but it's not like evil, I guess. She's not being evil, which is good because you don't want your main character to actually do evil stuff. And then we get to the end where she turns into a big giant monster and tries to literally destroy the whole kingdom. And I'm like, okay, now, but even then, well, when I was watching it out the second time, I was like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna believe, someone definitely died during her rampage, didn't they? Like, she's literally like terrorizing the whole city. She's stomping on everything, banging into buildings, very tall, like, New York City type buildings, crashing into stuff, and she's getting blasted all over the place. And now the director wants to hit her with a laser beam bazooka and everything like that. So she's causing a lot of destruction towards the end. And, I mean, I can't really blame her. Well, let me say this. I understand why. I mean, literally, this is after she got rejected by even Val. So now she's literally rejected by literally the entire society she lives in. So she's like, fuck it. I'm just gonna destroy everything now because it's just causing me so much pain and rejection. But even then, she doesn't even really have, she kind of gives up towards the end, which I thought was really, I was not expecting that. The whole, I don't know what's scarier, the fact that everyone in this kingdom wants to drive a knife through my heart, or sometimes I just want to let them. And I'm like, damn, this isn't a PG movie? This is what it's rated? And she's actively talking about, offering herself. It's like, sometimes I just want people to literally kill me, because that would be easier than dealing with all this shit. I'm like, oh, that's kind of sad. And I kind of felt for Nimona there. And so, yeah. So, oh my god. I actually do like that scene where she's just going to the Glora statue, which is probably a good way I kind of went away from it. But the Glora backstory, I actually really liked it. At first I thought when I first watched the movie that Nimona used to be a girl, and then I thought some of that wishing well story was true, but I don't know. It seems like it's possible that none of it is true, and the whole time she was just messing with Val, but she's this shape-shifting entity. Again, she could have been one of these monsters, quote-unquote, that live in the forest area. But again, it looks like she's, literally the only supernatural thing in this whole world that they have. But yeah, so she's a supernatural shape-shifting entity who was not accepted by any of the creatures and animals that she wanted to hang out with. And she tries to be human, and then they don't accept her. Glorf does for a while, but then her parents are like, no, she's a monster. And then, because the village people are attacking her, and then Nimona tried to attack back and defend herself, and then accidentally lights the village on fire, and then Glorf is just looking around and is like, yeah, maybe she is a monster. And then she's like, go back to the shadows from whence you came. And I was like, interesting. It's kind of like the whole thing, Glora, she accepted her, but then because other people told her not to accept her, and then, she's a kid, kids, not all the time, but sometimes kids are impressionables. You tell them enough, or you surround them in an environment, and they're gonna follow suit. Most likely, most of the time. So yeah, she's and then she's literally standing in her village burnt down, and not obviously not Nimona's fault. I mean, everyone was coming at her with pitchforks, but honestly, it's is it really the village people's fault either? Because it's literally a shape-shifting entity who could literally be anyone. I can automatically think to, back in those early colonial days where they were, witches and demons and stuff like that. And it's like, no, I do not want my kid playing with this weird magical entity. You know, magical entities aren't always something that people like. Something that a lot of people fear. And like, oh, this is literally like a demon that my child's been playing with, stuff like that. Even if she appeared as a helpless girl, again, she's a shape-shifting entity. They could appear as anything. So it's kind of like, when I look at this, I'm like, I could easily understand both sides of the party here. Obviously, Nimona wasn't a malicious entity. She was just, you know, just a shapeshifter who wanted to fit in somewhere. And then the villagers are like, oh no, there's this weird magical thing, and we don't like it, we don't trust it, so we have to destroy it. You know, I feel like both sides are honestly kind of valid in this situation. Like, I mean, if you meet a shapeshifter, are you really just gonna just accept them just like that? Like, that's pretty freaky stuff. Kind of cool when we think about it, because, you know, we like fantasy, but in the real world, if you see that, you're gonna be grabbing your crucifix. So, I don't understand both sides there. But yeah, and then Glorf is like, yeah, my village is literally burned down, and that's because I kind of associated with you, and my parents are like, I shouldn't associate with you, so I'm not associating with you, so I'm picking up my toy sword and pointing it at you, and you're my enemy now. So yeah, I actually did like that backstory and everything. And then Nimona, you know, turned into this hulking demon, tries to destroy everything, and then she tries to, like, off herself by basically plunging the Glorf statue's sword into her heart, and then Bao stops her and is like, I'm sorry, Nimona, I shouldn't have rejected you like that. I see you. And then Nimona turns back. And then the director, did I even mention the director is a bad guy? The director, you know, she's like, yeah, we're still gonna kill this thing. We're gonna literally laser beam it to death, and we're gonna sacrifice literally the whole part of the kingdom to do it. And again, like I said, and I mean, this is obviously an extreme reaction, but the whole idea of the director, even just the director specifically rejecting Nimona. I mean, Nimona literally just went through the kingdom, destroying it. Literally a demon, like, she actually looks like a demon monster now. Literally killing, could be, I mean, I'm gonna say she probably killed someone in that rampage of hers. Like, I mean, who wouldn't laser beam that thing? Like, I'm trying to play devil's advocate. I know actually, I'm wondering. I wonder if I asked the creators of this, the writers, and if I said, do you think Nimona's rampage through the city was justified? Like, was that, what to say? Was that a good thing for her to do? Like, is that morally acceptable, I guess? And I think the answer, I mean, I feel like the answer should universally be no. Like, just because someone mistreats you doesn't mean you get to unleash your rage and wrath on the whole fucking world. Like, you know, what is it? I don't know what the saying is, but, you know, evil doesn't justify doing evil. Like, just because someone, you know, mistreats you, abuses you, you know, rejects you, doesn't mean that you get to take your justified, I mean, understandable. Yeah, you're understandable, sympathetic even, but justified? No. No. Yeah. So when I say the director still wanted to laser beam her, I'm like, can you blame her? Nimona literally destroyed, like, a whole sector of the city. Like, what person in charge of this government wouldn't laser beam Nimona at this point? It's the thing about how, like, it would also destroy a part of the city. That was the problem. It's like, okay, Jesus Christ, lady. But yeah, like, honestly, Nimona is obviously seen as this hostile entity, and I don't really blame the director for seeing her that way when she literally trampled an entire sector. So I would say in that instance, yes, Nimona is the bad guy here. And, you know, in the sense that, you know, she shouldn't be, you know, doing that. But I will say that Nimona taking out the laser beam gun that the director was launching and her sacrificing herself, I saw that, in my view, I saw that as kind of like a redemption for Mona. Like, she was about to she was about to basically destroy the city and unleash all her wrath and rage on it. But then after she calmed down and she was able to reconcile with Bao, and she sees that, oh my gosh, now the director is literally going to destroy the city just to get to me, and she's going to kill all these people. And she, she's looking around, and, she has this, like, I don't know, conflicted, is conflicted the word? I guess maybe a little conflicted face. She looks around, she's seeing everyone screaming, she looks at Bal, she sees he's in distress, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna do this thing. And she, turns into a phoenix, a fiery phoenix thing, and then sacrifices herself to save the cities. And I saw that personally as a type of redemption for her, where it's like, this is a city I tried to destroy, and now I'm going to save it, even if I hate these people. Even if I hate these people, because, when I saw her look, when I was watching the second time, I was like, what makes her decide just to sacrifice herself? And I think it's because Bao wanted to save the city. Like, Bao saved her, and she sees that everyone is running, screaming. She literally just terrorized this place. She's running away. Everyone is running away, screaming. She sees Bao's in distress and is worried about everyone, and obviously doesn't want the city to be destroyed. And she's kind of like, looks at him and is like, okay, fine. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna write this. I'm gonna make this right. I'm going to destroy that gun. I'm not gonna let her destroy the city. I don't know. It seems like kind of a redemption moment for her. Again, I don't know if that was the writers or the creators' intent for that to be a redemptive moment for Nimona after literally destroying the city. I don't know if that was supposed to be, in their eyes, a redemptive moment or like a full-on 100% hero moment. Like, oh yeah, no, now she's gonna be hero. Nimona's the true hero, not the Institute, not the government. And then in my eyes, I didn't see it that way. I saw it as Nimona is going to be, she's going to make this right. And that's what I saw it as, personally. That's how I saw it. I don't know how, I'm honestly curious how they see it. And then we get to the end of the movie. I remember I was watching it, and I was like, you see Nimona, it looks like she's dead, but then she comes back, and then, Bao's like, oh my gosh, you're here, holy shit, and I'm like, oh, I guess there's gonna be a sequel, then I was like, oh wait. But it looks like it looks like it could have gotten a sequel, but it's just there's no one to make it, so. But yeah, it looks like there could have been a sequel, though. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's more in the comic after this, like in the creator's comic after this, but it looks like there could have been a sequel if they wanted to, but yeah, obviously there's not going to be, most likely. But yeah, so those are my thoughts on the movie. Oh yeah, and Bao and Ambrosia start together, like, that's the thing in the film. There are LGBT stuff in the film, but again, I didn't think it was like egregious, and it's not like the film was about that, really. There are a couple kisses, they're together, they're a conflicted couple because they're on opposite sides, but again, it didn't really bother me where I'm like, oh my god, they're pushing their agenda in my face. I was like, it's there, it exists, and it's okay. I'm not like against it being in anything at all. I just don't want to shove down my throat. Yeah, that's what I thought about the film Nimona. I thought it was decent. I would would I recommend it? I would say if it interested you even a little bit, you should just go ahead and watch it, because it's it's not gonna waste your time. I think it's a decent film, and I don't see the harm in at viewing it. Really. Yeah, it was a decent one. What would I rate it? I don't know. I don't know. Should I give it like a numerical rating? I feel like those can kind of be arbitrary sometimes, it's decent. It's decent. It's not a time waster. It's good. I enjoyed it. That's what I would say. I'm not going to give it a numerical rating. I'm not going to do that yet. It's decent. It's good. Watch it if it appeals to you at all. That's all for today, and I will see you when I talk about the next topic, whatever that may be. Whatever's on my mind, really. Who knows what it's gonna be, but is going to be something that I like. Maybe a video game. Because, there's some Genshin stuff coming up that I really want to talk about. Ooh, or maybe Spider-Man. That's also coming up. I'm excited about that. But who knows? It could be another movie. There's the Miraculous movie is coming out soon. I think it came out in French already, but it's coming out in English. Although I think I'm gonna watch it in French, honestly. It's gonna be a musical, and I do not want to watch that. I did not want to listen to a musical in English with... Yeah, after the last Christmas special musical they had, I was like, nah, I think I'll go back to the French. I think I'll use the French version for this. So maybe the next thing will be Miraculous. That's on my radar, but we'll see. No promises. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.